So it's finished Fulham 3, Wolves 2. A frustrating evening for Wolves at Craven Cottage this evening. So much drama, so much to talk about once again. Obviously, if you caught the game, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And I'm sure I'll know what a lot of the comments will be aimed and directed towards. And I'll try and give a balanced opinion on everything throughout the game, really. But Wolves starting a team that I pretty much expected and predicted on the preview. Santiago Bueno being the only change coming in for the suspended Craig Dawson. And talking about suspensions, there'll be plenty more for Wolves going into this weekend's game against Arsenal as well. But yeah, Wolves didn't get off to a great start. Fulham creating a couple of half-decent openings. They angled for that ball down wide and tried to drill it in hard and low into the area, and they had one within the first few moments of the game, which Raul Jimenez missed. But they did the same action not so long after, and obviously they took the lead through that. It was Alex Iwobi just sort of drifting in, finding that bit of space. I think Bellegarde's probably got to do a little bit better at tracking the crosser. There's a number of players who should be tracking Iwobi. I think Lamina's sort of holding that space, but not quite aware of who's around him. But as a centre-half, could have easily tracked that as well. So I'm sure from Gary O'Neill's point of view, that would be, that is a disappointing goal to concede. Thankfully for us, we sort of grew into the game after that, but we can't really keep giving ourselves these disadvantages. Away from home, for whatever reason, our last 3 away games, have been against. Last 4 away games: Luton, Bournemouth, Sheffield United and Fulham. And the fact that we've only got 4 points out of those is a little bit frustrating for me. And I think we'll be absolutely fine this season, but if we genuinely want to climb up the table and secure safety as early as possible, we do need to start picking up more points on the road. And today was a big chance to do that. Thankfully, we did get ourselves back in the game as soon as we could after. Brilliant work down the right-hand side. Jean-Luc Bellegarde, a little bit of magic to turn Robinson inside and out. And then there were 2 Wolves players at the back post. And it's still a difficult header for Matheus Cunha, but he gets the direction and the power bang on. And it's obviously great to get him on the score sheet, which we do need to see a little bit more. Just shortly before that, Hwang as well, who had hit the bar after a phenomenal ball from Lamina. I thought Lamina's choice of pass today was very good. And I thought he allowed the game, really made the game tick for Wolves at times when Wolves allowed him to get on the ball. There were times where Wolves just panicked a little bit and didn't want to get their foot on the ball, predominantly in that second half, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But I enjoyed Lamina at times today. I thought he was had a real strong performance. But yeah, going into half-time 1-1, I felt Fulham were really sloppy at the back as well. Tried to play out at the back. A couple of loose opportunities where Wolves probably should have taken advantage of. Obviously, Matt Doherty came on left wing back throughout the first half for Ryan Aït-Nouri, who picked up a knock. Hopefully, that's not too serious. And there were a couple of times where Doc picked up some really nice areas. And you think if even Hugo Bueno, who was on the bench, who didn't come on, which was quite surprising. But if Hugo Bueno or even Aït-Nouri got themselves in those sort of positions, Wolves probably would have done a little bit better. But yeah, going to half-time 1-1, although Wolves hadn't created a huge amount of opportunities, I still felt encouraged because I just felt that Wolves had the slight edge on Fulham with the mistakes that they were making. But then we get onto the controversy of the second half. We saw 3 goals in the second half. Frustratingly, 2 were for Fulham and only the 1 was for Wolves. And we'll talk about the first instance, which is the penalty. Nelson Semedo penalised and a penalty given away. For me, I think that's a very, very harsh penalty to give. Referee's given it again. I don't mind the on-field decision, being given, but it's up to VAR to make the correct decision. And I think Stuart Atwell, who's been an awful referee over the years, officiating Wolverhampton Wanderers games, sticks with the on-field decision. And I think you can see clearly from the early replay that Semedo connects with the ball first and wins the ball. For me, it's not a foul. And I think that's a really disappointing decision, and another decision and penalty decision that PGMOL and the officiating teams will look at. That one's a frustrating one, and obviously Willian takes the penalty. It's a good penalty and gives Fulham the lead. More clear penalty was the one for Wolves, thankfully. Hwang Hee-Chan bearing down on goal. Tim Ream bundles into him. Penalty given. Now, the frustrating thing for me here is that Tim Ream's already on a booking. Hwang Hee-Chan is, just taken out. No attempt to play the ball. For me, that's a second bookable offence. Tim Ream should be off the pitch. The referee, in terms of his consistency with cards for both teams, was frustrating and poor. I felt there were 2 challenges in the first 10 minutes, which is so late from Fulham. I think one was from Harrison Reed, one was from Robinson, if I'm right. Both should have been bookable offences. But yeah, Hwang, I was surprised that Hwang grabbed the ball for the penalty, and it's a really top penalty, just puts his foot through it, lots of power, and another goal for him, which is obviously good to see. But then another penalty. Now, this one is João Gomez. So there's a couple of incidents, before this that probably need to be spoken about. So the first one is Carlos Vinicius, who headbutts Max Kilman. Now, Max Kilman, being the professional that he is, doesn't really react how I would say 8 or 9 players out of 10 would react. And he sort of indicates, hold on, he just headbutted me here, but he doesn't go down like we saw Hwang, for argument's sake, against Bournemouth. He doesn't go down, and I think that saves Carlos Vinicius. But for me, that's violent conduct, and if you want consistency in the game, a player shouldn't be doing that, and he could be sent off. I think if Max Kilman goes down rolling, he would get a lot of stick, obviously, but I think the red card would be given. So the fact that, Max Kilman is professional about that situation, frustratingly, obviously helps Carlos Vinicius. Now, João Gomez on a booking commits a foul. I'm very, very surprised he got away. And I suppose in terms of the consistency of the referee there for not sending off Tim Ream, he obviously doesn't send off João Gomez. And I think that was shortly before the penalty was given. And for me, if I was Gary O'Neill, I would have been scrambling to make a change then, because I thought one mistake here from João Gomez and he'll be off the pitch. Frustratingly, then he's in the box, commits his foul. The referee doesn't give it, actually, lets it run. And I think it's very, very soft. Again, if that was the on-field referee given that, I would have said, okay, fair play, and I think the VAR would have stuck to it. But the fact that, again, it's taken them 3 or 4 minutes in stoppage time to look at this, bearing in mind FIFA today have announced they want VAR to start looking at corners, free kicks, yellow cards. How jarring is this game going to be if, it's taken them that long to decide on that? For me, that's soft. Again, like I said, I can understand why it's given, but I think Harry Wilson is very, very clever to initiate the contact. And at the end of the day, obviously, the referees had to stick with what Stuart Atwell's gone with, and Willian again with another good penalty into the back of the net. So, officiating side, frustrating, poor. Talking about bookings, João Gomez booked, which means he's on 5 bookings and now suspended for Arsenal. Lamina booked, he's suspended for Arsenal as well. But in regards to the overall game, I felt Wolves didn't do enough to win the match. I felt a draw probably, considering the decisions of the officiating team, a draw would have been a fair result. But Wolves certainly didn't do enough going forward once again. And that seems to be a similar story throughout our games in the Premier League. Look, it's great that we are scoring goals, but as a team, we've got to make sure that we're scoring more than the opponent. And I just felt in terms of goal threat, it's not that we didn't... Well, in terms of attempts on goal, I felt we lacked it. We picked up some nice areas in those wide areas. Matt Doherty had a few, and it was almost screaming for a number 9, a poacher, just to be there and say, thank you very much, and put it into the back of the net. The amount of times where that ball was just in that corridor of uncertainty and nobody was at the end of it was frustrating. And I felt a proper number 9 today could have done it. Kalajdzic, I think his cameo was really underwhelming again. And I don't think that necessarily to do with him. I think the system around him just doesn't work. And I know he gets a lot of stick. I think Fabio Silva would have given more today in the way that we would approach that game and the way that we were playing and where the game was. I'm bemused that Pablo Sarabia didn't get a cameo as well today after his game against his few moments against Spurs a couple of weekends ago. The fact that he hasn't come on to the pitch today is really surprising, and obviously the Doc sub was puzzling for a lot of people as well. Does Gary O'Neill think Hugo Bueno can't hack the 70 minutes plus? I don't know, but I just felt he felt a bit stiff at times and did restrict us a little bit, being a right footer on that left hand side. But moments that Wolves can learn from. There were positive moments, but again, a frustrating evening. I think Gary O'Neill will be disappointed with the officials. I'm not listening to his post-match press conference yet, but he may well get a fine after tonight. But I would be disappointed with the overall Wolves performance as well. I just don't think we created enough. I think we didn't get our foot on the ball enough, especially towards those late moments. Wolves just kept panicking. Just get your foot on the ball. Let's play a bit of football. And I think the sooner you can get the players back in, I'd rather Lamina and João Gomez be suspended for Arsenal than the 2 games after, which are home games against Burnley and Forest. But I think the sooner you can get the likes of Pedro Neto back in, I think Wolves will be back on top then. But Fulham 3, Wolves 2. Let me know your thoughts, guys. A bit of a frustrating evening. But hopefully we'll be back at it on Saturday and pick up, who knows, a decent result against Arsenal. Be sure to hit the like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you all very soon. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you next time.